to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Continue with a moment of silence. Okay. And get started. No additions or approvals?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Reports?
I don't have anything to add to my report unless you have any questions.
It's Mr. Oliver.
He's at junior high.
Okay. Mr. Drago?
I have nothing further to add to my report. Any questions?
How's it going over at Mapleville today?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go on.
Michelle, anything?
Nope, I have nothing to add.
Okay. And Gary's not here. Josh?
I don't have anything extra.
Okay. And Derek's not here. Okay. Alright, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any discussion on any of the items there?
Move to approve.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any seconds? Is there any discussion? Good. Okay, all in favor? Say aye. Okay, old and new business. Brad.
Jessica is here with Varney and Associates. They are the ones that conduct our outside audit. You not only have the KSDE audit, determine as far as our funds, but we also have Varney and Associates as the outside auditor group to come in and check through all of our information. And we've worked through things. She ensures that our books are correct. And I will let her go through anything.
Sorry, I should have passed these out earlier. You're welcome.
Thanks, Jessica.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I was gonna give you the extra. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so, like Brad said, my name is Jessica Lindsley and I'm with Varney and Associates. And this is my third year doing this board report, so a lot of familiar faces now. And I actually didn't come out on field work this year. I just did the review of the audit work papers. We had Taylor Oliver lead the job, and then Amy Albert, which is a new staff person, come out, and everything went very smoothly. So that's a testament to your staff and to Brad and everybody who helped us out. So it went very smoothly. Right off the bat, I'm just going to say no issues. It's a very boring report. We have no recommendations, no findings. So that's great. I'll kind of just do a quick overview, but please stop me if you have questions. And Brad, you can jump in if you
Sure.
want to highlight anything
Okay.
that you think they might want to know. I will start with the 3-page letter that I handed out, and this is our letter to you, the board, and this will highlight anything significant that we feel like we want to communicate to you based on our audit procedures. So if there were any changes in accounting policies, any recommendations we have, any misstatements that we felt like you needed to know, that's where this would highlight those. However, like I said earlier, we didn't have any of those to discuss this year. And you will note on, I think it's the second page, we did not identify any fraud or any potential fraud. So we always want to make that known based on our procedures that we did. Any questions on that? For the audit report itself, again, it's pretty similar to last year. There are a few things that I kind of want to point out that will be different. Page 1, this is your independent auditor's report, and this just states that these are your financial statements, and this is what management provided to us. Like I said earlier, we had no significant misstatements or anything that we needed to adjust, so everything that you see in this audit report are the numbers that your management provided to us. We simply provide an opinion on those numbers that we were given. You do pass a gap waiver every year, and so you'll see at the top of page 2, there is an adverse opinion on gap. However, the next paragraph below, the financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balance of the district in accordance with the KMAG model, which is what you report under. So that's a clean opinion, the highest opinion that you can obtain. So the next page 3 is your statement 1, and this is your actual financial statement. It will have all your funds listed, as well as the beginning cash, your cash receipts, expenditures, and ending. There wasn't a lot of significant changes this year. The cash did go down a little bit. Mostly that was in the bond and interest fund, just based on those tax revenues being less this year as that bond's getting paid off. And then I will point out, if you'll notice, the federal funds is a negative there, and that is typical of all school districts this year, based on most of it's the ESSER funding. So those were extended during the year. However, you didn't get those receipts until the 21-22 year. But that's not a budget violation or a cash violation. There is an exception for federal funds due to those reimbursements. Any questions on that? Following that is your notes to the financial statement. Most of these are pretty similar to the prior year. There are a couple I want to point out that we had to add that were new this year. If I can find the page. Page 11, notes 13 and 14. These are 2 required notes that we had to add this year. For all municipalities in Kansas, they had to have these notes. The first one, COVID-19, this is a very general note. It has nothing specific to the district. It just explains that there was a COVID-19 pandemic, and sometimes there's uncertainty with how it's going to financially affect the district. Note 14, this specifically discussed the Sparks funding that the district received from the county. And so it just states that you received approximately $209,000 from the county for Sparks. Following that, on page 13 is your Schedule 1. And these are going to list out all of your budgeted funds, the amount of the budget, and then the amount of expenditures, and then the variance on the right-hand side. Again, if you look at all the funds were under budget except the federal funds. And again, this is not a budget violation. This is due basically to the Sparks funding is a big portion of that. Because those were unexpected funds, so you were allowed to expend them, but you didn't know to budget for them. And then the same with the ESSER. So that's really what's affecting that. But again, no issue there. And then following that, it's going to go through each individual fund, your Schedule 2, and it has the detail of the line items that correlate to your Statement 1 totals there. So if there's any specific funds you want me to go through, I can do that. And then following that is your agency and your district activity in the back. Any questions? We are available at any time, and so if you do come up with any questions or want to email us, feel free to do that at any time as well. So Cheryl and Brad can give you my info. So, all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
Yes.
One thing I would say that, again, just, she mentioned it, but Cheryl in the office and the secretaries and everybody that put all this together, it's a lot of work. I mean, you're seeing obviously the finished product, but the boxes that were in here and going through everything and ensuring that we're all square with our budgets. So I'm very thankful for them. They do a great job. And it's reflected in the audit.
All right, is there any discussion on that?
No, nice job.
Yeah.
We like boring, clean audits.
Isn't that true?
All right, moving on then to approving ESER 3 plan.
The ESER 3 monies that we have available, we would like to, it's included in your packet there, all the information about it. But basically, the fact that we would like to put the money into retention, $500 a year retention bonus for the next 3 fiscal years, and then 3% premium pay to offset and help our budget as far as our general fund, and be able to have that already included in the monies. And it outlines within the plan how and why we need it according to our data and the things that are specific to our school districts. So that's all included within that. Then the other piece of it is that we would then, upon approval, then we would put out this retention pay incentive to our teachers and staff so that they can expect what's going to be happening. Again, it would be, as it says, all these retention and premium pay proposals are subject to approval of the ESER grant applications. So if we don't get the application, they won't be receiving that. And we can anticipate that we'll probably go back and forth with them about it. It's all in language. It truly is. I mean, you talk to some and they're like, the money is there for you to use. You should be able to use it however you want to. If you want to spend it all on buses, you can do it. That's really not within the premise of it. And for us, again, we would rather invest in people than in things. And the other thing, as I said, it helps our budget to be able to provide that because we know we have that particular monies. As we move forward with it, then that would be through 2024. And we have spent almost all of our ESER 2, correct?
But I think by the end of the year it will.
And one of the things that happens is you have SPED monies that are earmarked in your ESER funds. And those SPED monies, then they tell us how they're going to use it, and they're going to use it for a similar type of thing, with retention bonus and what to do with the SPED staff people. And as we've done before, and appreciative of the board's support, everybody receives it, not just certain ones. And there is a factor in there, if you work 50% of the time, et cetera, you wouldn't get the same as far as the amounts. But it'd be that for all classified and licensed staff people. So I think that that's important, because everybody's involved in it, and has been involved and continues to be involved in it. And so that's the purpose in it. And so that's upon, if the board approves it, we'll move forward and file it this week with the state. And then it has to go through a process. There's a vetting process, there's a committee, then another committee will look at it. We'll probably have somebody like we had in the past, our lawyer contact us, that worked from KSDE, questions about it. And then as we move forward, then it goes to the final approval as the State Board of Education. And they then approve those plans, and then we can start dispersing.
discussion?
So it'd be a $500 bonus and then 3% per year?
Correct.
Is that right?
5%, and it's again language, retention bonus, and then premium pay. And it depends on who you talk to. Some people say, don't say that, they said that. And then the other ones, you look online to see what the ones that have been approved, it's exact language. So, as I said, we'll work through after we get it approved and get it in there. And I'm sure they'll have questions.
I would move the plan for approval.
Okay. Moved and seconded, any discussion on that? Alright, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Alright, moving on to the COVID update.
Changes pretty regularly here recently, but we're around 25 to 30% absences. That may or may not be COVID related, but total. Do we have a number of absences? And no, not necessarily. We don't feel like we need or should be locked into that because that creates some issues. We're, as you guys know, and have been giving you information about what we did in regards to Thursday and Friday last week with the junior high, which has had no positives since then. And then the Maple Hill Elementary, that's having some more come up positive. But we took those 2 days off in a short quarantine. Again, we're almost exclusively finding that it is not from in the school and from the quarantines of kids that we have testing and quarantine. The program when we started believed and continue to believe it's doing what it's supposed to do because it's keeping kids in school and in activities. However, it's become so cumbersome and so much where we're having to test entire schools and things that the idea that initially to not have them miss instructional time, we're missing instructional time. And so that's counterproductive to what our program is. And so again, looking at our data is showing those that are quarantined and that aren't coming back positives. It's spread throughout families, weekends, social gatherings, that kind of thing. And so then we're going to meet tomorrow. Administration's going to meet with Ray. Ray's open to changing some of the things, and particularly with close contacts and the definition of close contact. The hope would be that the close contact is if I live with or take care of somebody that's COVID positive. Then that reciprocates a close contact. Because what happens is when we report a positive to the county, then we gather, okay, we were all in the same room. Well, then trying to figure out, are they close contact within 6 feet for 10 minutes? And that's hard to do, and they're trying, because according to our policy, everybody's close contact until determined by the county health department. And that's very difficult for them, because they're going, well, we're not at school, and on top of it, we got sheets of these things. And the thing that frustrates people are the fact that we're all three together, I get COVID, so you guys are close contacts, that's quarantine. Next week, you get it. So then, do I quarantine again too, and she does too? And so then, or 2 to 4 weeks of testing. And so the redundancy of the program is not doing, as I said, what we are asking it to do. But we will continue to do that in the best efforts. And Sharman has done a great job. She's been and it's been very good in the sense too that we have increases because people trust her. And so people now are coming forward to her, hey, we'd like to get tested. We'd like our kids to get tested. We'd like to ensure, so that's a positive. So it's been a good thing from that perspective. But just want to give you a little bit about what's going on. And like I said, I provided you the emails as much as possible so that you're aware of what's happening. Yeah. I'm very thankful for our relationship with Ray and the County Health Department. It's been very good. If you listen to others, it's not that way at all. It's ugly. And so, just as a FYI, the legislative group is here today in town Senate member Brenda Dietrich and Jeff Longline from Emporia, Dietrich from Topeka and Haswell-Bunsey County, a little bit of Bunsey County, and then Representative Highland. And they all agreed to the fact of local control and don't want to be dictated from the state level as far as what's happening with schools. So, appreciate that.
It's listed as an action item, is
Oh.
there, or is it just discussion item? Just wanna make sure. Any questions or?
I think there's enough action of it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for doing
Sorry.
that. It takes a lot, I'm sure, so.
Well, people doing a lot of good things.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there's not any discussion on that. Anybody? Okay, we'll go over to selecting energy solutions professionals request for proposal.
As we go through this process, and yes, it has been a long, tedious process. We started on this in 2018, just FYI, when we started with Train and with the other Snyder Electric and those groups. But long story short, the FCIP group that we were going to pay $16,000 to oversee to ensure that our savings were taking place through Kansas State said that they don't want to be involved. And the reason that they don't was I think they're overwhelmed with all the ones that they have and had timing because I was pushing, we're ready to go, we've got it taken care of, they've answered all your questions. We need to be moving on this, winter's coming, and opportunity with the air handling units to be able to help with COVID and every other thing, and to have those plasma scrubbers on there, and also with the increase in energy costs, for us to start reaping the benefits of having efficient equipment. And so, long story short, they let us do the high school gym over here, and that's been taken care of, and it's been really good, and they followed through with what they needed to do, and met with the, well, two things. One, FCIP would take care of the RFQs and RFPs, all that we had to do. Then, since they did away with it, we had to come back and redo it. So it was listed in the paper again and asked for people and contacted by a couple of groups about it. And Energy Solutions Professionals were the only ones that actually had a request for proposal. So they're the ones that we've been working with. They are the only ones to complete the request for proposals. Within the contract, it will be written because, as in conversations with them, look, we're going to be gone. And so we want to guarantee the 10 years that these people are going to, because they're not going to see or know or how they're going to look, and it's guaranteed. It will always be guaranteed, it's in writing, and if it isn't, then they will write us a check for the difference. So,
How will that be tracked by?
by them and by us, yeah. Yeah, because that's a great question.
That's a lot of, I know that there's been issues in the past with other
Mm-hmm.
entities and that then it's not tracked and that
Mhm.
nothing happens. To know
Exactly.
whether or not it really paid for itself.
Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering.
Exactly. Everyone will have to be diligent, that's for sure.
We're tracking it by utility costs? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Monthly, and what they guarantee, the 43,000, 40-something thousand a month difference that will pay for the equipment, that is guaranteed. And I just want to point out too, everything that the FCIP asked them to do and adjustments into their proposal, they've done it all prior to submitting it to us. So it's all been checked to ensure.
Are you looking to approve their proposal?
Mhm.
I would do this.
Okay, perfect.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that?
Just a quick clarification.
Mhm.
On that list of items that they're completing, that includes, it looks like replacements and retrofits for Alma Elementary, the junior high, Paxico Middle, the retro commission,
Mm-hmm.
the high school, and that's it, correct?
Correct.
So those are all-
And the thought process is dependent on, when we were going through this, not knowing what was gonna happen with the bond, and if the school's gonna be open or not. And then, so the other piece of it, you can, and at any point in time, add in other entities. So, let's say you passed the bond or didn't, then with that, then if you wanted to add Maple Elementary lighting, you can, and it all goes into the same type of process.
And the same works for taking.
I'm sorry?
away. The same works for taking away, so if there's something included currently, would that come out? or
Well,
come out?
if the equipment's already in place, and so, yeah, you can move the equipment to places that you need it, yeah. Mhm.
Been moved and seconded. Anything else? All right, all in favor of accepting the proposal from Energy Solutions Professionals? Say aye.
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 All those, same sign.
Thank you.
Alright, next item is, discussion item is the 22-23 school calendar.
Same number of contract days, have, put it through in contact and talked to, negotiations, the negotiating committee about it, and they agreed to it. There's some things that we're gonna look at possibly in the future, that may change some things with it with professional development, where there were those 4 and 3 day weekends, the possibility of, instead of individualized, PD, that we actually have, for instance, MTSS, multi-tiered systems to support professional development days. But right now, we have not done anything with that, so. And I see I messed up on that too. That should have been the reverse of that. That should have been the other one, the discussion. This one should be an action.
Okay. Any discussion?
I think the elementary teachers would like out at 1 o'clock on homecoming. And that's not included in this calendar. And there was no input from those.
No what?
There's no input from either Maple Hill or Elma from the calendar committee that put this together. So if that could be changed like it was this past year, that's what they want. And I know not everybody wants that. But that's maybe. And it seems like a small thing. But that's easy. But, and it goes, would go a long way to appeasing it, I would say. 'Cause it's been a tough year for the elementary teachers, I'd say.
Is there a date for homecoming?
Not now.
Whenever that would be, we'd add.
Not now.
Any other thoughts?
That can, to that point, that can just be changed, like that.
Correct.
It can be, but they had to, it was taken away from us, it was promised to them this year, and then it was changed back. And they threw a fit and got it, because sometimes people remember when people make promises, and they take notes, and they, so they had to go back and give it to them. So, I realize maybe there's no date for it, but it's easy to sweep it under the rug at this time too. I just need to make sure I'm making a fuss about it, so it's, if it's discussed and we say, oh yeah, we'll change it at the time, well, and it comes whatever day it is, in September, October, oh no, you're gonna take the kids, and, that's all I'm saying. It needs to be discussed, so it can be done next year.
Does that affect hours for other schools? Like, for other buildings for students in terms
Okay.
of time?
The KSDE, you count the hours, and the one that has the least amount is what you have to use. And presently, it's the junior high because they have have less total minutes per day than all the other buildings.
So would that have a change on our minimum hours?
Not really. I mean, it's 2 hours, whatever. So it wouldn't necessarily have the entire district have to be affected by that. I think it's isn't it 404 minutes for the junior high, and everybody else is 410, something like that. Daily.
Okay,
Something like that.
or 402,
Okay.
I think it's 402.
Yeah. And I was the one that told them at a faculty meeting,
They own
and I followed through with my word. Correct?
it. After much
Yeah,
gnashing
but-
of teeth and,
Oh, come on.
that's what they would say.
Come on.
Hand wringing.
Yeah, there may have been hand wringing, but I followed through with my word.
They would say you had to be called out to follow through.
Well, okay, that's fine.
I know, not
It's
your,
all
not your problem
interpretations.
now, I know, but
You would get to call them out on the carpet for a few things too, then?
you may try.
I think it's a fine thing. If they want the rest of the day off, whatever. I think that it's an exciting time for our school to celebrate homecoming anyways. So if they want it, great.
I move to approve the calendar.
Go ahead. Go ahead, I was just gonna
I move to approve the calendar with the addition of, having off at 1 o'clock for the elementary schools.
Well, I was just going to say, because and this isn't really, I don't think this is a board discussion at all. I mean, I had talked to Jan about it, but it's not, this is not a board discussion, but the way our homecoming works anyway. So this year was not great for our football team to then go play a football game that night after homecoming day. So, because it was 95 degrees and standing on asphalt for 2 hours. Anyway, but that's not really a discussion for this group, but if our schedule were to change on how homecoming was handled, I don't know, anyway, whether or not that should be part of the board calendar right now, I don't know. But just that comment is my comment about it.
Okay.
Because if we don't do things the way we have done them before, and we do them differently, as
Yeah.
other school districts do them, or might do them, it might impact that day, so. Let's go for that.
Alright, it's been moved to approve the calendar. Wait a second. I'll second. Oh, sorry, discussion. I'm distracted. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Alright. Okay. Moving on to bond. Have any notes, Brad? Anything you want to say, or?
Everything that I put together from the meetings and what the next steps gonna do. I think whatever you're doing, you need to put something out there. So people aren't wondering what the heck's going on again. That's all I've heard, what the heck's going on, what the heck's going on. As long as we know something's moving forward, we're okay with that, but if we don't, then again, what are you doing? So.
So we've had our town halls and our staff meetings. Any thoughts or concerns, anything you guys heard or any thoughts on those?
I was gonna say thank you for putting together your notes for all the meetings that you went to and giving a synopsis of every meeting. I thought that was helpful and nice. Took some extra time, but I appreciate it, so. I think our town halls showed exactly what everything else that we've done for the research over the last 4 years has shown. So there's going to be a three-way split on a decision depending on what location that you're in.
I think it was important to give opportunity for people
Yeah, I
to
agree.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And ask questions. Provide additional input, but you're correct.
I have heard that people feel like we've had enough community feedback, enough letters out in the mail, enough, there's been enough. So now I think it's time that the board figure out how to get a majority for a decision and move forward. I think that each individual board member's area has spoken, so they're going to have to figure out a way to figure out what they want, being us, and put something out there again.
Yeah, I mean, I echo that. I heard a lot that we have the information. That's what I kept hearing. We have enough information as a board. For those reasons. So it was kind of it was mixed a little bit about whether or not people wanted us to wait till November or wanted us to move forward sooner with an option. I thought that was interesting. But yes, it just feels very much like all the research is just as close as the opinions that I hear from people as far as the, do they want it split or do they want it in one town? So. How do we, I guess this is just, I don't know how to do this. How do we have a discussion and try to come up with a consensus? Because I also feel like we're all pretty set fairly well in what we want. So I don't know what the next steps are. Anybody have thoughts on this?
I think that, some people voice their calls about, not wanting to go from bond to bond to bond, and I just think that's what unless we build a brand new location and spend $50+ million, but then even then, you're still going to have to either have some type of maintenance reserve that we are diligent in putting money into every year and spending towards that. We still are going to have additional bonds in the future.
Unless somebody gives us a bunch of money.
Right. Somebody wants to donate a bunch of money. I don't see that probably happening. But I don't want to do just the cheapest bond possible in which to just get us by. I'd like us to do improvements that's a sustainable solution for the next 20 to 30 years, that we're not feeling like we're still have problems within our facilities, or we don't have the right, I don't know if right is the correct term that I want to use, but the adequate facilities in which to teach in our classrooms, I guess, that that we have the right sizes for the classrooms, that we have the right facilities, that we're not constantly having to fix things because they're constantly breaking. So I want us to spend enough in order to get things, upgraded, I guess is what I want to have. And yeah, I think us as a board, we have to compromise and come up with a solution that I think that we can put forward to a vote and see where that goes. Use the facilities that we have to the best that we can, and I'm not saying to do this because it would pass. I'm saying we need to do something that is, it has to pass, otherwise we'll never get, we have to put out bond proposals that'll eventually that we want to pass. I don't know. It is difficult. It is difficult because of the layout of our district. And I think it's a hard decision for that.
the bond to bond issue that you just discussed, I actually had a taxpayer say that to me. So I said, can you help me understand what you mean by that? And their feedback was more wrapped around $15, $20 million bond after $15 to $20 million bond after $15 to $20 million bond. Because I think all of us, I mean, whether you are a renter or a homeowner yourself, you understand that general wear and tear on buildings over 30 years with 450 people in and out of them in a day obviously cause more wear and tear than probably a monthly budget that you could budget for. That's why we refinance our homes and put rails on. That's why we refinance our house and do home equity loans for windows. New carpet, we finance that at Carpet One. I mean, people use different modes of financing to improve their homes every 10, 15, 20 years. And so when I brought that feedback back, that was the case. Well, I don't have a problem with a $7, $8 million, hey, let's fix all our roofs back up again, but I'm getting tired of you hitting me with a, where are we gonna build this? Are we gonna build a $60 million new school? Or what is the direction of the district? Give me a direction of the district that we can vote on. And then 20 years down the road, once that bond's paid for, what's the next direction? We also understand direction's gonna move. But if there is a general consensus of direction on this bond, we get this one passed, and in 20 years, I believe taxpayers understand there might need to be 8 to 10 million at that time. Whatever, I mean, construction prices might be 7,000 times what they are today. I have no idea. I just believe that the taxpayer understands there's gonna be some general wear and tear that's gonna need to be addressed every 20 to 25 years. But I believe they're tired of the, where are we gonna build it, what are we gonna build, that type of approach, so.
I think, there was brought up in a couple meetings that, with the condition of at least the ones we did the assessment on, when we had the, structural engineer come in and look at those buildings, and with that assessment being appropriate in terms of there's no structural deficiencies or concerns with those buildings, individuals feel as though if it's not in a situation where it needs to be condemned or needs to be repaired structurally, then why is the school district doing that? Why would you put money towards kind of its sentiment, what we did at the last one? Why were we looking at tearing down a building when we shouldn't have? Because we didn't do that. We didn't have that structural engineer come in ahead of time. And I appreciate that sentiment. Unfortunately, with the space that we have, I think we can all agree, hopefully, that we need to consolidate at some level. We can't operate out of all these buildings. It's costing too much money from our operational budget, and we have to consolidate. Now, whether that means one building or two buildings, whatever that is a direction. And to a question to someone who would say, I want a direction for the district, I would say that's the direction. The direction is we are consolidating. And we're bringing it to a point of sustainability. Either one of the options that we were looking at, that we've discussed with people, addresses that. It addresses the concern of sustainability. So you can't say necessarily, and we've talked about it at some of the meetings, but you can't say one necessarily overrides the other. They're equally, essentially sustainable.
If that's true, why wasn't the last bond? Why did the last bond?
Because like I said, what happened was we had citizens who felt, why are you tearing down things that are good? Why are you tearing down things that are structurally sound? Why are you wasting this extra money?
I mean 20 years ago, why didn't that bond make it sustainable?
Didn't make it sustainable because there wasn't growth within the district. If we would have saw an influx of growth, our student funding could.
Keeping the district divided between Pexco and Alma is just as sustainable as consolidating the district in Alma. Am I hearing you correctly? So why would those be equal? Why would they be equal?
Because you have to have the same costs are attributed to those facilities as you would even if they were across the street from one another. You have to have the same space.
I don't agree.
The only difference
You're wrong.
is a gymnasium. That's the only difference. And actually, I see that as a benefit to our elementary kids because of the fact that they're able to have a large indoor space.
The difference isn't traveling teachers? Is that it?
No, I don't see
It's
it as
not,
a
it's
significant
okay.
difference.
All right.
No.
We can disagree with that.
We wouldn't have that many traveling
I don't
teachers
think
if
we
we
would.
divided up between elementary and secondary.
No. I don't see that as
The difference in
concern for the
traveling
district.
maintenance guys spending time on the road, going back and forth?
I don't see that as a
Okay.
significant factor, no. I don't see that financially.
I think you're full of crap.
The cost of someone to drive 10 minutes, negligible in terms of our overall finances.
Benefit of having everybody in one location?
What's the benefit? Tell me,
Well,
tell me how.
I can tell you the benefit from the elementary teachers at the meeting I went to. They think it's beneficial to be in home. And they gave me a whole list, and one of the things is, the high school kids, they think it's positive, that the high school kids can come and interact with all grades. I mean, they didn't say that, but you can extrapolate that if they're coming over and they think that's positive. Besides that, on Fridays, the high school kids are involved in these kids' PE when they go over there. I mean, I just think, maybe you haven't got there yet, but you're discounting, or at least not saying, the benefits when you say, well, these solutions are equal. It's just not accurate.
But see, you're also coming at that from one elementary school's perspective, because the other elementary school would say, yes, it's beneficial for all of us in elementary K through 6 to be together, but I didn't hear that they needed to be next to the high school for that. I didn't hear that they
And they don't
had-
even know.
So,
They don't even know because
They've never
but
had
they,
it.
they never had it.
but they travel over here for things.
Oh.
They also come on. Hey, you're talking about one perspective from the one school that you went to, and I'm talking about my perspective from the school I went to. And it wasn't about having the high schoolers. They come over here, they do things with the high schoolers. So I don't think we should discount also what they have to say in favor of one elementary school, what they have to say.
But we're talking about long-term sustainability.
Well, but if you're
Not,
basing
I would
long-term
be happy
sustainability
if I
on the
can.
ability of high schoolers to interact with elementary schools, is that sustainability, or is that a desire that we want to have for the kids?
I'm just saying it's a benefit that he wasn't gonna bring up. He's
Because
just
it
gonna
doesn't deal with
Benefit.
sustainability, and I wasn't talking to that.
Okay, so can I ask a question?
Please.
Okay, so if we're discussing sustainability and you go to a K through 12 facility where possible growth members that are moving to the area get to walk into a K through 12 facility and they get to see high school kids interacting with their elementary students. And then they come to our school and we have to drive to Paxico to show them our K through 6.
I don't think
And they don't get to see that here. Do they decide that, well, I kind of like the interaction that just happened there. I'm going to pick the K-12.
I don't think that plays into the mind of a parent.
I-
Or
Well,
or
I
they
think-
say,
I
at
think
least
it
all my
does.
kids have been one.
I chose
this location,
four
I don't
different locations.
I do think it does.
You did, but I've talked to, I won't mention his name, but he lives in western Wabunsee, or northern Wabunsee County, and he chose to take he was a graduate of here. And he has kids that would have been in every school, and he said, I've got 5 kids and I'm not putting them through that. More so, I'm not putting my wife through it because she's gonna be the one that has to travel around all these schools to the kids' functions. We're gonna go to Wamego. That's only 5 kids.
They'll have two
There's only
different
one
locations.
parent, I get it, but
They still have 2 different locations. They have an elementary school and a high school. You're not resolving the issue.
Don't you think
it's all in one town.
Yeah, but
What's a yabbit?
10
What,
minutes,
can you
10
understand,
minutes.
can you explain what a yabbit is?
it's 10 minutes to 10 minutes.
Don't you think we've
it's 10 minutes
proven
from
in
one
this
side of
district,
town to when we go to the other. It's 10 minutes from Paxville to Elma.
if we've done nothing else, we've proven in this district that you shouldn't be in multiple towns? I mean, if there's a lesson from USD 329, we have proven you shouldn't be split up.
We've proven that you shouldn't overgive, I think. I think we did that in the bond that passed. The board overgave. The board gave everybody.
You got a room with
something.
5 light
The board
bulbs
didn't
on,
pass it.
and you can turn them off individually, and you're saying,
Taxpayers passed it.
you're arguing that we can leave 2 bulbs on versus 1, and it's equally sustainable. I mean, you're just wrong. It's silly to keep talking about.
Well,
don't know that it's necessarily wrong, Jerome. I think that it's different.
For long-term
It's
sustainability.
different. I don't think that it's necessarily wrong. I mean, other districts have 2 locations. Rock Creek is in 2 or 3 locations, or however many locations they're in. They're huge though, but I mean, but their K through 12 is not all in one location. And other districts, and they purposely built that way.
A majority of 2A schools
I-
operate out of 2 locations.
Right, and that's probably because.
Feelings have been making decisions for decades, isn't it wonderful?
Well, and I think 2 locations in many small districts are because they were in a situation we're in right now, where they already had multiple schools, multiple towns, everybody had their own one-room schoolhouses, and then they consolidated. So that's why.
That's not the point
It
we're,
was.
Right, that's not the point.
that's
we're
not the
in.
stage, I guess, of
Yes, right.
real estate development that we're in.
Right, it's not.
Well, it kind of is. They were at a point where they couldn't support their operating needs, and so they had to consolidate.
I mean, what
We're the same
do you
situation.
suggest we give to Paxico on the next bond, since they rejected the gift you all gave them on the last bond?
I don't know if I would consider it a gift. I think it was a means
Some
to
people
make this,
would consider
make
it
the
a gift.
district sustainable. I think it was a good solution. I think there was
Why didn't
probably
it, why didn't
issues.
it pass? Why didn't they take it?
There were probably
They're
issues
never gonna
during
get a better offer than that, and they still rejected it.
during the process that we went through in working on that bond. There were a lot of holes that people saw. Admittedly, I saw them, not knowing what to do with the closure of Ohio Street. The fact that there was.
I don't think that was even a.
It wasn't even in the bond. That's how lack of information that you discussed, that you dug into the last bond, it wasn't even a part of the bond. It was discussed if it was a possibility, it wasn't a part of the bond.
Wasn't a final.
And here you are, a board member that's supposed to know, and you don't even know.
I'm saying it was a lack of general clarity. You had a whole bunch of issues with people not knowing what was going to happen, and besides that, they knew buildings were gonna get torn down, and they had a problem with that.
Fact.
Yeah.
That's primarily the reason it probably didn't pass.
Kelly, do you have something?
No, just to add about the buildings being torn down, this is just a side note, I've read some history here lately about how, there was a school building and it was there for 40 years in Maple Hill, and then they tore it down and they rebuilt a whole new building.
What?
Yes, they built high school here. They had a building, and they had it for a few years, and they tore it down and built a whole new one. And so it's just interesting to me about that. And I'm not discounting people's feelings towards buildings and things like that, but it was just ironic to read that. And we're in a state now of not wanting to tear down buildings. And I'm not saying we should if the building is structurally sound. However, that building has to be able to serve the needs that we need in our district too. I don't want to have a building that, well, we can add on a whole bunch to it, but we're gonna have all this unused space that we can't really use because it doesn't really work, and there's cinder block walls in there, and we can't move those walls within that structure in order to make it fit the needs that we need for our students that are attending that school. And so we still have this huge amount of unnecessary square footage. So that's part of it though for me too, that I don't want us to then have
True.
that.
I had, on that topic, I had an individual contact me because I believe at our last board meeting, people take our words so literally. And we're trying to have a general discussion, which makes general discussion hard because we're online, which, by the way, I believe we are one of the only districts that still post our videos for our board meetings live. I hear a lot of chatter that the surrounding districts don't do that, so thanks, Josh, for getting that set up and allowing people the opportunity to hear us. But
By that argument.
anyway, they had heard that, well, maybe, were you guys really discussing doing a K-12 out in a centralized location and leaving the athletic facilities for now and then rebuilding once this bond was paid off? And I said, well, if that was discussed, I probably missed it and I wasn't paying attention in a board meeting. But their point to that is, it's a 20-year-old building. Travel around to anybody else that we play basketball against and find a nicer gym facility. Today, it's 20 years old. Find a nicer one. Go to Rock Creek, the biggest school in the Mid-East League, and look at their facilities compared to our basketball. It is night and day. This is the nicest gym. The taxpayers at the last bond passed to build that right here in Alma. Unknowingly, in my opinion, solidifying the fact that they voted the last bond down, and I was a huge proponent of it. Voting it down, I am back to a K-12 in Alma. The facilities are here. We're wasting money going anywhere else. Well, we talked about operational savings. Well, it's only $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Only? In 5 years. How much is that, math guy?
I don't think it is 20 to 50,000 a year.
Which, that's what was discussed. That's what's on
It's
record.
about 20 something.
Now, how many?
200,000 times 10.
How many students are you losing per year that's gonna make that go down?
That's what we talked to every other district around us. We talked to Onega. How many students did you lose? We talked to St. Mary's. How many students you lose? We talked to Mission Valley. How many students you lose? Guess who's bigger than Wabunsee now? They consolidated to a K-12 and they are now a bigger district than us. With the fear of losing everybody that leaves. We are talking about stepping over $1 to pick up a dime.
And they may not. I mean, it's possible they won't. But, I mean, I saw the numbers, you saw the numbers that were presented in terms of what we would need to get that to pass. And I think.
Are you afraid to put it to a vote?
Am I afraid to put it to a vote?
Are you afraid to let the taxpayers tell us no to a K-12 and Alma option?
I would not be a proponent of it.
Are you afraid to let the voters vote?
No.
Because if they say no and solidify your answer, then you've got it, and the rest of us are like, well, you're right, Jim.
Make an argument.
If a
Make an
majority
argument
of
for a
the board
school
felt that way,
in
yeah.
Mexico. Make an argument for a school in Mexico, either what we have now or building in Mexico. Argue for it. Because I can't see any way that would be something that someone could be a proponent and say, this is positives here, go for it.
Put this in a sustainable position where we have all of our K through 6 in one location, all of our 7 through 12 in one location. We're situated literally it's like 70 or 75% of the 2A school districts in the state of Kansas are situated that way. That's how they operate. I know if they can operate that way and be sustainable and have a capital outlay that takes care of roofs, HVACs for the future, we can operate.
Okay, you're gonna say something
That's
about
why it's
taxes though
sustainable.
sometime?
Well, we have facilities there, we have them there. I know that some staff were concerned that if we shut down the junior high, and bring everybody over here, then we don't have enough facilities as far as gyms are concerned. So there's some of that. We do have a building that's sustainable, or not sustainable, but that is structurally sound. People really didn't want to see that go. We did put money into it. We've got the media center. So, I mean, to just leave those two facilities that we went ahead and put a ton of money into at the last bond, I mean, I struggle with that as well.
So what if we keep it? Get rid of the middle school and keep that so we can keep our gym but operate out of here.
But then we're transporting kids to
Well,
that
we're gonna have
gym.
to do that anyway, right?
Well, but what I'm saying though is that the argument is that we have everybody here so that we don't have to transport kids, but then we have to transport kids.
But
Does that, then that cancels out.
say the bond that Don and I have talked to him, seen him since we were in Maple Hill, would build an extra gym here. We'd build a couple classrooms here. Maybe we put some locker rooms on the other end of this building for football, and you remodel your ag shop, and you put roofs on this building, that building for $2 million, and the whole thing is $15 million, and that's with probably 10%.
That wasn't with another gym though.
I think he's saying, what if you can look at
Now, this is option 72B. I mean, I'm just, just made some notes on an option that's the one you maybe just said you didn't like, but it's actually more than just a maintenance. If you build a gym and a few classrooms, because you might want another science classroom. Yeah.
You're gonna have to add.
I just think it could be done and would pass, and then you'd be all sad, and everybody would be sad. Maybe it wouldn't pass, but I think most people realize where we're going. We're going to consolidation now. Might not be in 2 years, might be in 25 years, but we can waste money in the meantime.
You talk about most schools, you said you had a percentage 70-some% of
Yeah,
2A
I think
schools.
they,
Okay. So can you go back and tell me when we passed our previous bond, how many Were we 3A at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
think so, I think we're 2A.
We were borderline.
fluctuated.
We were borderline
Fluctuated
3A,
between
2A, and we're not
3A,
even
2A.
close to 3A today.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, how many 2A, 3A school district operated out of 5 buildings in 3 towns and was doing bonds at the time to update all 5 of those facilities? Can you tell me how many that was? I'm gonna say it's probably less than 1%. 1% of these school districts in Kansas that were 2A, 3A chose to pass a bond to update 5 different buildings across 3 towns. So we were against all odds at that point in time, but now all of a sudden you don't want to go against the odds and be different for Wabunsee and do something that's different for us that makes us stand out against the local 2A competition. That's what we are, right? We're a business that is running a business to recruit kids, right? And we want the best atmosphere. That includes facilities, teacher environment, leadership, programs, accessibility to those programs, right? I mean, we are a business running that, right? So what's wrong with making us look different than the rest of the 2As? Man, it's cool, this 2A over here is a K-12 in one location. If I go over there, we're a K-12 in different locations.
There's 2A schools that are K through 12. I mean,
It's okay.
Mission Valley.
But it's not the 72%. We'd be going against you just stated a fact. You acted like it was a fact, like it was 72% of 2A schools operate.
From a sustainability standpoint, I'm just saying, I
Okay.
see that as sustainable.
I'm just saying, since we
It's
have that
also sustainable
opportunity.
for one location, I'm not arguing that fact. I think one location would also be sustainable.
But they're equally sustainable.
I think each of them have positives, Jerome. I know, I do agree with that. There's positives to both. If you,
I don't see
as a
positives.
resident,
I don't
as
see positives to have a school tax, and
a,
I've yet to have anybody tell me there's a positive to a school tax.
I'm a resident of Maple Hill, and so, and I know Justin since his kid's in Maple Hill now, so. even
Yeah,
though
and these teachers told me, we have propped up Maple Hill for already too many decades. And I know we've already discussed closing it.
Well, I don't know that, I wouldn't say too many decades. Enrollments in Maple Hill Elementary were not what they are now, even when my kids were there. It's dramatically declined since then. So I wouldn't say that we've propped up Maple Hill, that's kind of, well, I'll put my opinion of that comment. But to your point about the benefit of the interaction of the elementary school children with the high school kids, I mean, that is a big benefit. I mean, if you haven't had a child either be part of that interaction, either on either end, it is a good thing. So if we're in 2 locations, can that not happen? I don't know that it can't happen. Is it more difficult? Yes.
Making it less sustainable.
Well, making it more difficult, I should say. It's not as easy to just walk across the closed street to go to the elementary school, so. I don't know. I think for us as a board, we have to come to some compromise. We're all not going to be happy in whatever option we choose. But I think it's important for us to come up with something to move forward, and I think actually, I was hoping we were gonna have something on the ballot by this last fall, and that didn't work. So,
Spring's a good time.
I was just gonna say, I think that spring would be my preference for timing as opposed to next fall. Mostly because Brad is retiring, and we wouldn't have, we'd have a new administrator coming in and having that person have to try to figure out assistance for us to put forward a new bond. So Brad has all the knowledge that we've had over this discussion over the last couple of years. So I think that for us, and if it doesn't pass, then we will try something else again.
Yeah, and I
But-
mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but I do feel as far as timing, it would be best for us to try something in the spring, and I know that does cost our district money to do that.
Yes. I mean, I think, I would agree. I heard some support for that, to have a spring, one, because the other thing is, and I think we all know this, is once summer hits, everything, all the communication, yeah, it's gone. We're all busy, everybody else is busy, everybody's doing the things, and nobody's thinking about the bond, and then we come back in the fall, and it's like, I feel like we have to reinvent the wheel with what we're discussing and what we're talking about, because all the momentum has just gone. So,
What would timing look like in the spring with like, what would have to happen when? So-
Well, if, you remember you had to make a decision at this board meeting to have an April meeting, April bond, I believe that is correct.
It's
January for a May one, I think.
I'm sorry?
Is it January for a May?
Yes, for May.
So if,
Well, we're not gonna get a decision tonight, we don't have.
is the process of getting all the language and everything, that would happen in the interim between one board meeting to the next, is that right? Typically,
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just like, typically, I guess, if there's not action taken tonight, and in January we come back to meet, likely we would have to wait until then, either a special board meeting or the meeting in February to formally approve the bond with the accepted language, is that right?
Yeah, you've gotta go through it, I've got all that information that's gotta be, written on what the question is and et cetera, et cetera. And then it's gotta go to the state board, and you have to have approval for going above your ability to, 14.5% or whatever it is above. If you have that, going above that with your borrowing money, it's gotta be all those things.
So-
First loops that basically take 6 months, right? Or 4 months, let's see, December, and then we're gonna go for an April, so it'll be in January, February, March, April, yeah, 4 months.
Well,
Go for it.
I mean, should we then, try to come to some consensus in which for us, at least those members that are here, I know not everyone's here, this evening, but that we could then, I feel like we can't come into a board meeting to say, okay, we're gonna approve it on that night and not already have some consensus ahead of time. Does that make sense? I feel like we've done that several times before and then it doesn't work very easily, or very well, I should say, not work very well for us. I don't know,
Do we just try to decide if we're gonna do a spring or a fall at this point?
is anybody against doing a spring one if we can? Anyone against a spring election
I'm against it.
because of the cost or because what?
Well, I don't think we're together at all.
No,
Couldn't be farther apart, I would say. I got. I'm sure these two, Don would show up when it came time to hire a superintendent, but I really thought he'd be here. And Tony will be back, but they weren't even involved in this
right.
discussion.
No.
We just
I'm not
had.
saying we can make a decision tonight
No, I
as
know,
far
but
as
I'm-
a bond.
You think we can make a decision in January?
No.
Well, we're gonna be seeing a lot of each other between now and then, right?
Yeah.
I think we have a quorum on the board and we could make a decision.
So maybe we can, we talk after we talk.
Yeah.
I can see a hard time. Do it. But I don't disagree that it's gonna fall apart in the summer.
Right, I mean, just like last year, I feel like it did the same thing, and people had got surveys and they didn't realize they even got a survey. Or that they could do a survey. So, and that was at the end of school year.
You're not opposed to spring?
I'm not opposed to what?
You got an opinion on?
I think that at the one town hall, they said we'd like to see one sooner than later, so
Yeah.
that's where I'm saying I would be fine with a spring one. But we're not gonna get anything past the board quicker than that. I mean, honestly,
I agree.
we're split 50-50 every time it comes up, so.
Okay, so then how do we get us to not be 50/50?
Yeah.
You vote for the K-12 in Alma once.
Well, I'm not saying,
That's clear. You know that.
but we're still.
I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm
We're
just saying.
still
Sorry.
not, I'm talking about compromise, is what I'm talking about. So how do we get us to a point where we can feel good, like, okay, that may not be my favorite option, but I can compromise and I can do that option.
And I appreciate that, Kelly.
That's
And
what I'm saying.
what I'm saying is I believe that our high school building is inadequate in today's environment to be technologically advanced enough to go 30 years into the future. It might be structurally sound enough to do it, but I don't believe it is functionally sound to do it. But I'm willing to give and leave that building up and do a smaller bond, but still here in Alma. That was some of my compromise. I'll stop tearing buildings down because that was one of my ideas on the last one, and it didn't work. So I listened to my people and I'll say, fine, we'll leave it up, but move it down. Allow us to save more money throughout the years in order to fix that aging building, because in 30 years, it's gonna be 130 years old. Compromise I was trying, my
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Do you have things you would be willing to compromise? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, what would you be willing to compromise? What do
I
you see as
said
a
all along,
compromise?
I said all along, compromise does not equal sustainability. We've compromised for a long, long time, and it doesn't work. I think we've proven it doesn't work. So, if I am being asked what is the most sustainable, that is everyone in one town. So am I willing to compromise on doing something in Paxico? I think that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to spend any more money in Mexico. So, does that answer your question?
I think it'd just be nice for the board to be on the same page, and I think that's what Kelly's getting at, is if we could get on the same page, it would be great.
I mean, here's my compromise.
That's
right, but
I would love for us to be on the same page.
Look at the tax base I represent. It's larger than everyone else put together. And so my compromise is, I'm not gonna say no to everything, like many of the voters out there. They literally say, it doesn't matter what it is. I will vote no. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's $500,000 for New York, I'll vote no. So the compromise is, for me, the $15 million bond that gets the stuff we need and consolidates now. You don't see that as a compromise because you still believe that it is equally sustainable to be in the town, and I don't believe that. My compromise is a bond at all. I know it's silly, but it's not silly to these
I would say
people.
it was silly.
If I go back 4 years ago and you said that, I don't believe we need a bond at all, so.
Yeah.
You've come a long way.
You've come a long way.
I would say it was silly.
Right, so yes, that is my point. My point is it'd be great if we could all be on the same page and all be,
It would probably be the wrong decision then.
Oh,
You
I
have a
don't
group
know.
think,
I don't
everybody
know.
agrees.
What else have I said this whole time? The bond that will pass is not the bond that the district needs. That's absolutely true. And you can say, well, that's not really true. But it is true. We've done it. We proved it already. It's not what the district needs.
and I mean, honestly, yes, my preference is one location. Just that it's difficult for me.
I understand.
Because
I'm
of-
glad I'm not in your
because of-
position.
Because of the
Here.
layout of our district.
Yeah.
That's why it's difficult for me.
But you didn't make the decision to bring Maple Hill in this district.
No, that happened well before. So I think that everyone is, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people are, worried about change or reluctant for change because that's different and I don't know, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna put my kid on a bus and they're gonna travel on I-70. Well, you know what, my boys drive I-70 every day and I would rather them drive I-70 than many other roads. Because one, one, there's actually traffic on there, and two, it gets cleared off when there's snow,
Yeah.
and they aren't gonna end up in a ditch and no one see them for hours on end if I don't happen to be home because they aren't there. So, you know, I don't have necessarily have a problem with that. It's a longer drive, yes, it is, but I think that as we've already improved, our transportation, you know, from around the big district and things like that, and if we're going to one location, that can be, you know, bus rides can be shortened and all of those things, is what we're going to do, so. And I would be willing to do some type of bond. I don't have the specifics of it, of what all we need, because I don't know what all we need, to do, but we could try to do one that is all in one location. And, see if the voters will agree with that. Because we have to consolidate.
Agreed.
I've done a lot of talking with a lot of people, a lot of walking, a lot of driving, and from your area, Jerome, from your area, Justin, from Tony's area, from Don's area, from your area, people are really nice in our district, thankfully. I didn't have anyone shut the door on me, so I know they didn't want to talk to me.
I tried, it didn't work.
Yeah, I know. But I learned that people support our district, and I learned that people are very responsible with their money, and they want to be involved when a decision's made, a financial decision like this, where it affects them directly. I learned things about the last bond related to why it didn't work, but I think more importantly, I learned from those that were very much against the last bond. And I learned the things that they were opposed to are things that we can rectify. And those things align with what the committee came forward to us with in August. I did not get a lot of feedback saying, well, I don't care what you bring up, I'm going to vote against it. I heard it from a couple people because they just don't support our district, and that's okay. People have.
We talked about how people perceive this at the town halls as maybe condescending. That last statement is exactly what you're talking about.
The entire conversation you had about Paxico was condescending, so I don't know that you should probably call Jim.
Well, I'm just
Jim
saying,
out on
you
that.
just said.
I'm just saying they don't
You
necessarily see
you
the
don't
benefit
spend millions of dollars, so
themselves.
you don't support our district. They're gonna be like, I thought that maybe I listened to you. Now I'm just no for the next 50 years, it's guaranteed. Because, you know, that's it.
No,
You're
I'm not
But
saying
see,
that
I
they
think
don't
that
mean
that
nothing
probably
to
just happened
us.
with
They
Paxico.
pay taxes, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that they live in our district.
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of something.
But even those people didn't slam their door on me. They accepted me in. We talked about the budget. We talked about the concerns that we have from an operational standpoint. They understood those concerns. They voiced that they still would not support a means of a bond as resolving those issues. They saw other ways in which the district could potentially try to resolve those issues, but unfortunately, those were not long-term solutions, what they were bringing forward in terms of district viability. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I see a path that is widely supported within the district because it addresses primary concerns that the last bond didn't. Not necessarily to the fault of the board, but just as a result of their own personal feelings, there were specific reasons why individuals voted no. And a lot of that is actually remedied by what was brought forth by the facilities committee. I think an all-in-one ALMA would create a large amount of, for lack of a better sense, riots in the streets. I think there would be a large amount of people very upset, and I think it would fail terribly. And not that that's the problem. The big problem is that tears up our district, and that's not what we're supposed to do as a board. We're a unified school district. We're supposed to unify. We're supposed to try to acquire as many students as possible. And when you're tearing apart individuals based upon their own ideologies, that's not the focus of the district. The district is to bring people together.
I don't know. I think I have a fundamental difference in what the board is supposed to do in that. And that's probably why we disagree on a lot of it, which is fine. I mean, iron sharpens iron. But I just believe that we are supposed to direct the district in the most efficient and economical manner to get as much money in the classroom as possible.
And I think both options do that.
One does it a little better than the other.
No.
Oh,
That's
you made it attractive.
that's an opinion, and that's okay, right? That's what we're here to discuss, is people's differing opinions. But you have to admit that that's an opinion, that it's not enough. The fact is that it does say, the opinion of yours is that it's not enough.
That's what
okay.
That's what I've heard from
That's your opinion, that you have gotten off of biased meetings that you will go around and say, well, I really want this.
This is said from people in your area. Like, don't say it's biased from someone in Maple
Well, it's
Hill.
biased because of you.
No, it's not.
No, he's right. They're being nice. You already said that.
Yeah.
They're being nice to you.
They're being nice to Leonard.
They have to be, because I'm getting the same information that says we support a K-12 in Alma, and I don't appreciate the fact that I voted you in the last time 4 years ago, and you went away from what our constituents wanted.
They don't want to be disagreeable with you. You're right. And so they are gonna not disagree with you. That's part of it. There's a little bias. It's all just thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad made a good point about we need to come up with a long time ago, yeah, a long time ago. Brad made the point that we need to come up with some semblance of what our next steps are. So can we try to figure out?
Honestly, I think we've had some good conversation
I do
tonight,
too.
and I think we're starting to crack the ice a little bit. It's hard to have these types of conversations knowing that there's an audience here of people, neighbors, renters, renties, that you're probably upsetting through the process, so it might take a couple more of these in order to get people to say, you know what, fine. But thank you for directing an intense at-time conversation,
Because I think we had a lot of months where we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
because we don't want to have this
Because we
conversation.
don't have this conversation right now, so.
I think we're
And-
under a
and-
very tight timeline,
Yeah. But it'll happen when it happens. There's a timeline out there that works for everybody. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. We can't make that decision tonight. I wouldn't even vote on a bond tonight, even if it was a K-12 in Alva, because I feel unfortunately, Tony's normally at every single meeting,
Right.
and he ain't here tonight.
Right.
And that is his major area that he works in. I feel it'd be a disrespect to him and his service on the board to even vote on one tonight.
Well, and two, just like in August, I couldn't, or whenever our meeting was to try to put something on the ballot for November. Couldn't vote on it right then. We hadn't even really talked about it as a board. That wasn't, I just didn't feel like that was appropriate either.
I agree. I think it's good to have, especially, it's good to have full participation, and I would like that, if possible. Would it be possible for us to set up a special board meeting before our next meeting in early January to discuss this in depth?
I think we're gonna have plenty of special
Yeah.
board meetings coming up here. But if the board wants to do it, I'll clear my calendar.
I just think we are in a very tight timeline. If you're doing this in the spring, we're gonna have something decided in the early January.
Right, and I don't know that we can get there to be able to do it. That I would be my preference, but I don't know that we're going to be able to get there. It's my comment to that. I just, would love that.
So do we wanna have this on on our agenda for next time then? And just see if we can't get,
Keep it as an action item in case something slips.
I mean,
Well, what are we gonna do between now and then, though? Or is there other steps that we should be taking?
We'll threaten you behind the scenes.
Well, I know that that's going to happen, I'm sure.
I think though that, I think we need to bring back, if we're gonna have discussions and we're gonna try to do this, we probably need to try and bring back the estimated costs of the different options. I mean, I feel like there's two options here we're talking about, not 16, not 22, there's two. But we have to be able to have some semblance of what that will look like. I mean, we're all talking in very generals, we could do this, we could do that. So what do we want it to look like?
I don't want us to get into the weeds of not the numbers aren't important, that's not what I mean.
No, I know.
But I think we have a bigger fundamental discussion about what location, I think.
Okay.
I think, and.
Because your number would probably change a little depending on.
Right, because of differing, they might be pretty much exactly the same numbers, depending on, unless they're, I don't know, maybe they're wildly different.
Okay.
Can we go back to Maria and ask her to
Oh.
present what was provided before?
Do we already have that? I'd hate to have them do more work, I feel like we have
Somewhere in there we
so
have
many.
it.
That's why I got some of those.
Yeah,
The only one of those numbers I wasn't able to find, but I didn't go back far enough. I could find it.
Okay, so
You know what I
fundamentally,
mean, we can pull pieces and parts of things and to just get some type of rough estimate of that is what I'm trying to say. Because I just feel like we've had so many different estimates at this point, because we don't really know exactly yet what we're doing.
okay, so maybe next time, we focus on location. I mean, obviously with a lot of discussion about why and how and all that, but.
Well, ultimately, I think we know. I mean, we
need
know where
to-
everyone stands on location.
Yes.
There's really one person that has to make a decision on that. So, I don't know if having a sole discussion to talk about just location for one person to make that decision is necessary.
I'm assuming you're referring to me,
Yeah,
Jim.
sorry.
Right, thanks. It's fine, you just
Well,
say it.
I actually thought he meant there was one person, meaning a group of taxpayers, to make the decision, right? Is that who makes the decisions?
So I get to make the decision.
Yep.
This is why I think that it's that much more important that we as a board are,
I don't.
whatever we put forward, I don't want to put forward another one, and we're not all going to be 100% happy with it, but I would hope that whatever we put forward again, we don't have board members actively campaigning against it, because that's not great either, so.
Who are you talking
I was talking about you from last time, but I'm talking about a future bond, if we're all in one location, having active board members against it.
Yeah, and
Do you know what I mean? I don't think that that's good either, as a board, for us to do that either. We're trying to put forward an option
I
for
would
people
never
to consider.
actively campaign.
Well, I know, but I don't know if you will, or if Tony will, or Dawn, or Callie, I don't know. I'm just saying that as a board, I don't think that's
I'm a
good.
taxpayer and I represent taxpayers. So I can fight bad ideas, and I have.
No.
And when I step away from here, I have to fight bad ideas. It's even more urgent at that point.
You have a responsibility
get
to the
that.
board.
You get that? I'm just talking about for a future, I'm talking about for a future election, is what I'm talking about. Even if we come up with one and it's all K-12, I don't want Callie going out door to door and saying, don't vote for it, don't vote for it.
Right, which may
I'm
happen.
the president of the board, but,
That's
don't
where
vote.
we're at. I don't know. I have a
Because you were-
responsibility to the board. What does that even mean?
Okay.
Anyway,
Really, what does it
I'll-
mean?
Again.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure,
Okay.
email. Let me know.
Great. All right. I almost hate to say this. Any other thoughts?
Move on.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. Taxation Middle School. Jerome, I think you brought this one, or?
Well, what are we doing here? Why did we close the building?
Save money?
Say mine?
And so we're keeping it hanging on.
Are we saving money?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have those numbers, or I know that's like, but do you have any idea how much, or did we get those numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking why haven't we sold it yet, or
Or
what?
are we moving towards selling it? I don't
Okay.
think we are. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Should we be moving towards selling it, selling the stuff in it if we decide we don't need it? Is any, I mean,
It's one of them things that's probably really easy to keep, out of sight, out of mind. It's something
yes,
that's really easy
I
for us
agree, I
to,
agree.
in another 2 or 3 years down the road, it might not be worth what it's worth today. Even if it's worth $1 today, it might only be worth 33 cents 3 years from now. I mean, I think it's something that's a good idea to keep in front of the board, and what are our plans with it? I mean, as a direction of consolidation, we just got done talking, I would not be able to completely understand why we would ever reopen it.
I thought part of it was that we were gonna wait to see if there was a bond, because we might have to shuffle kids
Yeah.
if we were having to close the building down because it's being remodeled,
I
et
see.
cetera.
We demolished a portion of the building and needed
I
that
got you.
space, that's why.
I couldn't
think
remember.
At one point in
Yeah.
time, we were still keeping it in case we needed to put some classrooms there, if we.
So has that been run by BHS? I mean, have they weighed in on that? If we did either one of these bonds, I mean, do they think we would need it, or is that something we as a board decided to?
Just we as a board,
Yeah.
PHS hasn't said anything, but if you get rid of the modulars,
Yeah.
then where are you gonna put them? Those kind of things.
Well, and I think
Gotcha.
other plans they always put up temporary classrooms if we needed them, as opposed to.
On the bond passage, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, for those, they would set up a temporary classroom, that was maybe the portion that was not completed at the time.
And do we have any cost analysis on the difference between what it would cost for temporary classroom versus just keeping that and using that, how much would that save us?
No,
We just use the modulars that are available.
I guess my
We already
cost
have.
analysis is if that thing's worth $100,000 to the guy that wants to do it, or whatever that number is, it's
That's
worth
what-
something in today's value, right?
That's the value the realtors gave me.
Yeah, so it's worth a value today, and if our potential buyer finds a solution someplace else and we didn't act on it, and we get to use it for that, our cost of that was whatever our sales price would have been, right? I mean, opportunity cost, we just lost whatever the number was, $100,000, but we're gonna apply that to moving kids around for a bond.
when there are other options. there's
Seems
other solutions
expensive.
for that.
I mean,
Yeah.
seems expensive if you look at it that way, in my opinion.
I mean, I thought the original plan was to sell it.
It is. Or
As
was.
long as we keep discussing it, I guess. I just don't want it to be.
It hasn't been on our bond, there hasn't been on a board deal since we closed it, I don't think, so. I don't remember talking about it.
You know,
Is he still interested?
Yes. I just talked to him.
could go to an auction, that's what the realtors
Right.
told us to do.
Right, which these.
Should we do closed bid, closed bid auction?
We can, but they indicated the best way is just have an open auction right there,
Right there. Boom.
and they write the check.
We can always have a reserve price, but
Is it possible that, well, probably not, it's an open option, I was gonna say, I mean, if it goes towards something that, is a detriment to the area for some reason, or doesn't provide any form of economic development, and I'm not gonna say like a landfill, but like hypothetically, would the board have the option to not go with the highest bidder at that auction? Probably not, it'd have to be re-auctioned again, right?
And you could put in the contract the first right of refusal, but are you willing to turn around and spend $100,000?
Right, so.
to take it back.
That's where I feel like a closed auction, you can get in bids, be able to determine based on the bids and the type of what it was going to be used for, maybe provide some economic development, versus, I don't know. You know,
The
there's just-
city kind of challenges that a little bit too, right? Conditional use
Just gonna
permits and
say,
stuff.
would the city have to have a say in that? It wouldn't necessarily,
You
I
can't
wouldn't
just
think that would be our,
Does that make sense?
area. So the city could do that or would do that.
They would be able to prohibit something like that.
Via permitting, I would think, yeah.
And not necessarily us as the seller. Because I don't know that we really have control over that. I mean, it would be, you know, they may say they're going to do something and they do that for 3 years and then change, and we can't control that. In the long term, it would have to be the city. So, I think unless
So
we have an immediate need for it, or that we're using it, or want to use it for something, maybe we should look to auction it.
There's a bunch of things in it that would also need to be auctioned. Could be auctioned, extras. It's a storage unit right now.
That we're using it for.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have things there in storage that we're, I know you kind of said on there, that we're using, or we're taking out sometimes, because we're like, oh, we've got extras over here, we can just go replace them.
Some of that,
Yeah,
like for instance, these
yeah.
from the elementary school computer labs areas and the junior high, their computer lab area as well. But it could or could be used in the future, yeah. But
Kitchen stuff too.
just got a place for them. Then we'll rob and stuff, like if we have a sink go out or we have doors up here at the high school, Gary robbed that door and put it up there.
Does that mean we should keep it?
You're the board and,
Well, I'm
I
not,
mean, an
I'm not
asset,
the
it's a
administrator or the
storage.
maintenance either,
Right,
to know.
yeah.
I don't know, I don't,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, do we need to have that storage? Is that storage something that we have, is it, if we
If we
didn't
sold
have
this,
it?
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. If we
If-
didn't have it.
Mhm.
You go.
If we auction off everything that's in there, we don't have a use for it now. So auction off and then you wouldn't need a space.
Just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you needed to, you could, it depends on what you want to do with the modulars again. Just FYI, that's a pain and you don't get anything out of it. You need to have the modulars with that unit, with the middle school, as you well know. All the stuff we went through to get
I mean, it's part of the
$2,000.
auction.
Huh?
You mean it's part of the auction?
Yeah.
Part of that. Yeah,
Mhm.
you get the modulars.
Yeah, you can separate them
Gift-
however you
gift
want to
with
do it.
purchase.
Yeah.
Well, you can sell it separate too.
That's
I'm
right.
just saying, yeah, you'd probably make more money selling it separate.
For somebody who just wants that.
But yes, if you get, I mean, it's the same thing you have to decide at home. Is this an asset we want to keep or we want to get rid of it?
I need to look at how much
It's
it's
my
costing.
decluttering thing.
Huh?
We're decluttering.
Okay.
How much is it for us to keep, like, how much is it to keep, like, the temperature of it needs to be, what?
I think, and I can't remember what, because I see them all the time, but I can't remember how much we were spending. We'll find out what the energy bills are and let you know. We don't save very much with, well, yeah, we did. We cut down way on the value of it as far as property insurance too. We cut that down. We save $3,000 roughly a month in custodial there. It was taken off. We were at 27,000 with ATS, went out 23,000. So there's savings there. Personnel saved some with that as well. They've saved. So. So yeah, I mean, roughly speaking, when I put out there that we're saving 50,000 a year, we're saving 50,000 a year. And if you just take a $1.84 square foot times that square footage of what it is, that's pretty close.
Well, it was just a discussion item, so we wanna,
I can bring you back the results of what, or include it in Friday notes or whatever.
you good with that? Alright, transportation.
Yeah, we've had several buses with deaf issues, not being deaf, but the sensor piece. And we'd like to have permission to go to bid for a possible used or new 59 passenger gas bus. They get out of diesel. The gases initially didn't have enough power, wouldn't last as long, but same deal. You're not driving, the diesel may last 300 or 400,000 miles, but the thing rots out long before it gets there. And so, as far as the unit itself, so the power has been addressed with the fuel injectors and those kind of things. The motor size is big enough to handle it and not near the issues. Maintenance cost way less. You don't have to have near so much oil and changing things with oil and the weight and everything else. So we'd like to look to go to gas. Now the question would be, okay, well you just got a 34,000, wasn't it, for the van that hasn't been delivered, the Ford van. We have 60,000 in capital outlay, that line item for a new or used vehicle. So that's 26 roughly thousand. We went through capital outlay. We feel like we have enough money to purchase a bus around $60-some thousand.
How much is it to replace the depth sensors?
It depends. The ones that we were looking at, $2,000.
How many of our buses are having issues?
3, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct, Michelle?
Yeah, there's 3, there's 2 down, and one of them, we were able to put a part in to fix to drive, but it still needs parts, which are back parts.
And the other piece, I'm sorry to interrupt
Over
you.
100 days is what.
And
So
then
we're
the
down
other,
the bus currently
We're down to
with that, we're down 2 buses.
and then with the other thing of it was the one bus, for instance, that we were using. We didn't want to put in the $2,000 for it. That was just for the parts. And so out on top of, and the guy that does it is the most expensive, which it's worth it because he's the only one that has a computer system to let you know what it is and how to reset it and do all those things. And so, thank goodness we have him and the availability. And so we've been using activity buses to run routes, which then when it's okay, until then you have activities. And then you don't have an extra bus. And working through that. But we are not going to put $2,000 into one of the buses that had issues from the day they started with the thing. It's just one of those buses that always has issues.
I move to approve.
Second.
We moved in second, any discussion?
I don't have a question, sorry. I don't know how this personal busing typically works, but, so,
Hey, Kelly, wait a second, I'm sorry.
I second,
yeah,
yes.
Thank you.
So for the buses that we currently have that have issues,
Mhm.
how are those usually like disposed of? We trade those in somehow or
I would take
fix
bids
the
on
sensors and?
We'll take bids on when we're ready to get rid of them.
Purple Wave is where we found we've gotten the most money.
Would we like fix the depth sensor so it would be
No.
basically a, no?
Because we're only getting $1,500 to $2,000 a bus. Yeah. Now we did, for instance, the last bus we did sell that way, S&S, we worked with them, and basically we stripped everything. So we got the tires, the rims, we got batteries, I don't remember if the battery worked or not,
We
but
got one back.
okay, got one battery. So everything we could take off of there, and they were good about, okay, well, we paid $1,500 just to use it as storage here or whatever. And so if you want, Rob, what you want to take from it, and they were very good about it, so.
Professional bus strictly.
Hmm?
Professional bus strictly.
Yeah, that's right.
Alright, okay. It's been moved and seconded, Jim, you get your question answered?
Yeah.
Any other discussion or questions? Alright, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign.
Thank you, we'll see what we can get.
Okay, so the next action item is executive session,
Yes.
Okay.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. So I move we go into executive session to discuss confidential data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships. We need 10 minutes, so is there a second?
Second.
Was it Jim?
Jim, yeah. He was getting paid.
The team effort.
Okay, so that would put us back in here at 7:55.
Okay. Thank you.
to personnel. We have a motion to.
I move to approve employment as submitted with a substitute teacher Kimberly Day and Jamie Dunbar, fall coaching rehire list as submitted. The junior high boys basketball coaches of Jody Tarbutton, Todd Orton, and Brandy Miller. Accept the resignations of Cheryl Zeller, board clerk. Cheryl, thank you for everything you've done for us and the organization that you brought to
Thank you.
that office is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Accept the resignation of Galen Craighead as Alma and Maple Hill Elementary School principal and approve the transfer of duty of Michelle Garrett from transportation director to Board of Education clerk.
Second.
Seconds. Any discussion or all those in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed, say sign. Alright. Superintendent Board Member Forum.
A couple things real quickly on the, Cheryl, could you, and or Michelle get out the dates of those, school board meetings?
I gave Michelle my sheet on that.
Okay, so if you could email them to everybody.
Are you talking about from,
Uh,
Dr.,
Yes,
okay,
Dr. Hart. And then, the January 6th, meeting, we need to set a time. What we're gonna do is we are gonna, have district office staff, that will be working directly with the principal, or, I'm sorry, superintendent, to, be able to go through, and these groups are gonna answer these three questions: the current strengths of the district, the challenges the district is facing, skills, traits, and qualities for the new superintendent. So meet with the district office staff to be able to do that, with administration, and then the teachers group would be represented by Jamie Hollenstein and their negotiations group if they would like to have input. And then board determining what time want to meet with that. Because then KSB would meet with the board and say, this is what these people said, and then they compile what they are looking for. Is that correct, how I interpreted from him, Dr. Bretton?
so we would
Dr.
meet
Hart?
first with Dr. Hart, and then set a time for him and us to meet with the board, to give them the information.
As well as the teachers union.
Correct. And the administration. So with Steve and
Jam.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That person said it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So you mentioned the board clerk as well, and
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
So, any questions about that, and they'll get out the information to you all with the dates. KDOT Safe Routes to School grant, we terminate that grant. It was a $12,000 grant. We would have to come up with $3,000. The Manhattan Community Foundation, they withdrew the $3,000 that they were gonna take care of the district fund. Long story short, it was due to some things, the person that was representing, or supposedly representing, the city and school on some grant things. And so we have terminated that grant. And the city of Paxico wanted to see what was going to happen with the bond before I ever do anything. So preliminary budget, we get that every year from KSDE, and they go through and look. In that Form 150, where we build our budget off of that, there was a example of that included in your the last page, and it goes through and it checks and it shows you where we're up and down as far as our numbers. And relatively speaking, we lost FTE in our numbers We gained preschool, thank you, Mr. Craighead, for his work with the preschool, because we gained 6 FTE off of those preschool particular students. And overall, we were down 14.2. We lost 12.2 at risk, and that's free lunch. And we don't have, everybody's got free lunch now, and so they were supposed to fill out an economic survey, and some wouldn't do it. We tried to get them to, they wouldn't do it. And even with the idea that if you fill this out, like you say, then if you need help, we want to help you. So then you wouldn't have to get your fees, you could have those reduced and or not have any fees, they still wouldn't fill it out. So anyway, we lost 12.1 from there and just lost 9.3 in transportation due to the fact that we aren't transporting as many kids. But one of the questions was back on the other side of it with career and tech ed, we gained 4.2. And that was always a concern with when we switched to the 7-hour versus block scheduling, that we'd lose FTE money in our career and tech ed. But Cheryl's made the adjustments, and or Michelle, in the general fund and the LOB to take us down that $88,000. In January, with rather than have it in February, I believe when we have it typically on the board agenda, right, to have it in Paxico.
March.
March,
Yeah,
okay.
typically
We'd
March.
like to move it in January to Paxico at the junior high and have Cheryl's retirement reception before then. So start at 5 and then have the board meeting at 6. So just as an FYI, if that's okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Jerome?
Thanks Cheryl for all your years of service. We really appreciate it. I think it's awesome what you've done for our district. You were the secretary of the junior high, and I still remember those days. Thank you, Mr. Craighead, for your service as well. We've asked a lot from you, and you have provided us as a huge asset to continue education for kids. So we appreciate your service as well. That's a lot.
Sure, just have to echo that. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Mark always talks about that you were there too at junior high, so, and we're older than Jim.
It's been a long run.
Yeah.
38.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. With that, motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second? Second. No seconds? All in favor? Say aye. Anybody opposed to that? No. Okay.